Hi everyone, how are you? So first, I'm a little intimidated because I think my PowerPoint is a bit lame after all of this great digital art, but bear with me for 10 minutes, and I appreciate all you staying late into the day. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about ecosystem building, because this is something that is very important to us at Animoca Brands. Just a quick word for anybody who's not familiar with us. We do a couple of different things. We have a consumer business, so we have games like Sandbox or projects like Mochaverse, etc., that people know us for. We have an institutional business where we do things like stable coins or help governments to think about how to build Web3 natively in their infrastructure. And we're also a very active investor in the space. So we invest across all asset classes in Web3, and this includes everything from games and entertainment to infrastructure, tools, etc. So we do all these things, and as we think about how we build the ecosystem in Web3, I want to talk to you a little bit about big tech. And the reason, and also just so you know, I'm not going to talk about AI. I'll be one of the only panels potentially or speeches not about AI. But I want to talk about big tech because I want to talk about ecosystem building. Because we talk a lot about this, and for those of you who might have seen me or my colleague Yat speak before, we talk a lot about silos and what we call this technofeudalism of Web 2. And the idea that essentially all of these big platforms are building massive data silos that are proprietary and don't talk to each other. And they're capturing all the value of your information, capturing all the network effects of your information. And the problem with this in Web 2 is that it is fundamentally extractive. It's a one-way street. They're taking all the data and information and the ad revenue, and it's going one way, and they're not sharing that with their customers and their users. And so we think a lot at Animoca Brands about how we contribute back into building the ecosystem, how we reinvest into Web3, because we think one of the great things about Web3 is this ability to do that through tokenization. And so I took a look at some of the big tech companies, and I asked myself, how much money do they spend investing in other companies? Because you'd think it would make sense for a massive tech platform to invest, have a venture capital initiative, say, where they're a corporate VC and they spend money investing to build other tech companies who can be their partners and their suppliers, etc. So I looked, and actually, I was quite surprised. We have probably the biggest participant in the industry is Google, right? They have Google Ventures. They've invested in lots of companies, $6 billion deployed, which sounds like a lot of money, until you put it in the perspective of Google, and you realize that it's actually not very much money at all. And then the same goes for Amazon and Microsoft and Apple, where they've all spent roughly $1 billion or less investing into the tech ecosystem. And when you compare this to, on my graph, the blue bars, which is how many current assets they have on their balance sheet. Those are liquid assets sitting on their balance sheet. They're investing literally less than a single-digit percentage of their current assets into growing the ecosystem. And I think that this is a big shortcoming, because if you think about, let's take Apple as an example, right? Apple is a very successful company, the biggest company in the world, huge app store, big economy in the app store. They make about $27 billion last year just from their take rate in the app store. The overall app store was about $90 billion worth of revenues. And so it's a $1 trillion company. They've got $152 billion in current assets. Imagine if Apple said, we got $152 billion of assets, current assets, we're going to take 10% of that and make a fund. And we're going to call it the App Store Fund. And we're going to invest in companies that make apps for our App Store to grow the ecosystem. When they make money, we take 30%, so we get it back, and we're going to grow the ecosystem. What would that do? Well, I took a look at venture capital, and that would make them the second biggest VC on Earth overnight by just spending 10% of the cash that they have sitting on their books, investing back into the ecosystem. So I feel like this is a missed opportunity because they could actually be helping all those companies like us. We were an app developer in the App Store, helping us to grow and build new products, right? Just like cities and governments incentivize film companies to go and make movies in places. Like, this is their ecosystem. They should be supporting it. And so when we think about how we grow our business, we do a lot of things. As I said, we invest. we provide services to all our portfolio companies, but most importantly, we reinvest in the ecosystem. When we make money, when we sell tokens in one company, we take those proceeds and we invest them in another company. And then we take those tokens and we use them to market make for other projects and to create liquidity pools, and so on and so on. Because it's about reinvesting to grow the overall ecosystem. Because all of this comes back to us in the end, because as Web3 grows, of course, as a player in Web3, we benefit. And this is not unique to us. This is something that other people in Web3 do also, and these are only a few examples. We are really good in Web3 at growing our ecosystem because we understand that when we make money, we should put that back into the ecosystem and grow our platforms, grow our standards, grow our communities. And this is actually, I think, one of the things that we in Web3 can be really proud of, is the fact that we actually are not extractive. It's a lesson we learned from Web 2. And we focus on building our ecosystems. And I think we should be very, very proud of that. Because at the end of the day, it engenders network effects. As we, with our investing practice or token projects, interoperate their content or their tokens with other projects, it allows for the network effects to facilitate back and forth between those communities. And one of the ways in which we're doing this is with a project that we call the Mocha Network, which has grown out of our original Mochaverse NFT collection. And the Mocha Network is essentially a decentralized identity system which underlines our thesis that we want to connect the internet, let's call it. Because part of the problem we see with those data silos is that all that data is fragmented in different places. So that, for example, you may have a profile with your Google identity from Gmail, or with your Facebook profile, or with your TikTok profile, or your bank. All of these data silos end up replicating each time because Web 2 companies build their business models on proprietary ownership of that data and not sharing it with anybody else. So you as a customer need to keep sharing it with everybody in order to facilitate being a customer. We think actually that the Web 3 solution for that is that you should be in control of your data, but it should be in a form that allows you to securely bring it with you from place to place. And this actually solves a lot of the privacy question because it means that all these platforms don't actually need to have your data. You just bring it with you when you show up. And so the way that we've done this is we've created infrastructure through a decentralized ID system that allows any third-party network to essentially integrate our SDK, and then they can access all our Mochaverse community members and also offer this ID system to all the members in their community. So eventually, the idea is that it can become a little bit of a network of networks, so that we can onboard Web 2 communities by them integrating our SDK and essentially being able to open up decentralized identities for all of their users. And why do we do this? And I will wrap up, I think, in a second. We do this because we think reputation really matters. And this is one of the lessons that we learned on our journey in Web 3. When you think about the incredible tools we have in Web 3 to retain and reward users, we can give them airdrops, we can give them offers and rewards, we can track their behavior, and all of this information is publicly available. And it allows us an incredible way to re-engage users, get them excited, give them calls to action. But the challenge is always, how do I identify who are the users that I want to incentivize and reward, and who are the users that I don't? And we think that the fairest way for this to happen is actually for people to accrue their own on-chain reputation. Because that way, when you are a good user and you engage in positive behavior in the ecosystem, and positive behavior for me might be you come to my application every day, or you buy things from me, or I give you an airdrop and you take that airdrop and you stake it, and you hold it, and you don't dump the tokens the next day. That may be behavior that I want to encourage. And if I see in your reputation that you've engaged in that positive behavior, maybe I give you a bigger airdrop the next time. Maybe I give you a whitelist. I treat you as a VIP cohort customer because I can see that you have a positive reputation. And the flip side of that, of course, is if last time I gave you an airdrop, you dumped the token the next day and never came back, I know that you have a reputation that says, I'm not going to give you the airdrop next time because I want to focus my energy on the customers who are loyal to me. And this will hopefully encourage people to actually demonstrate positive behavior because it's an incentive in Web3 to receive more rewards and better treatment. It allows people to actually self-select into being VIP customers. So that's where I'm going to leave it today, but thank you very much.